say Honorable Brown-Burke?
No, we don't. We reserve that for the ministers. Not that we are not honorable people, but no, it's not a title that we use.
Oh, so what title do you use for your MPs?
You know, we don't. We just simply say MP, Brown-Burke, MP, whatever. Yes.
Interesting. So thank you so much for accepting to talk to us.
Absolutely not.
Whoa. I've been reading so much about you for the past few days. We did a whole editorial about you. Today we're going to have a really interesting conversation. Begin by telling me where you were born, when you were born, and who you were born to.
Well, first of all, I was born in Jamaica. Actually in the part that we call St. Thomas. To the east, and I spent most of my days actually in Kingston growing up as a child. Then I went back to St. Thomas, where I lived with my parents, went to school in Kingston. My parents were just two humble Jamaicans, as we know them. I finished high school in Jamaica, went to Cuba for my first and second degree. Then I went to the US, did my master's, came back to Jamaica, did my doctoral studies in the US as well, and I've been working in Jamaica ever since.
Interesting. In all my readings, I've not seen your date of birth. Are you intentionally hiding this from the public?
Absolutely not. I'm proud of my age, but you know, women don't normally talk about their age.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, I was born in 1960.
What day in 1960?
April 26th to be exact.
So she was born on the 26th day of April in
60.
1960. Oh my God. Okay, so Dr. Angelo Brown-Burke is my guest, and she's all the way from Jamaica. Now you've gone through a lot of hustle right from the beginning all the way to where you have found yourself. Tell me, what kind of parents did you have?
You know, I had regular working parents. My father actually believed that women should not work outside the home. So she was a housewife for most of her years. We moved back to St. Thomas after things really were difficult in Kingston. Crime was very high where we were. And so we moved back there, which made it easier, which meant that my mother could grow some things at home and we could sell that and we could help to send ourselves to school like that. We had reared goats, cows, you know, stuff like that, and that's how she made a living for us to go to school. But the important thing, my mother did not finish high school, and one of the things that she really was firm on is that we all had to have a good education. And I think we all grew up knowing that education was our passport. Because, you know, in Jamaica, every generation wants the next generation to be better than they were. And she thought that that was a way of improving where we were as a family.
Interesting. But where was your father?
But my father's still alive, by the way. He's 96 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, he's living in the States with my two other sisters. I'm living in Jamaica. He also was very humble. He worked at the wharf, stuff like that, from, again, very humble beginnings. And quite frankly, I'm really very proud of the kind of upbringing by my parents. You know, they thought that regardless of what was happening around us, we needed to have values and principles that centered us and defined us. And that's kind of how we grew up.
Wow. Was he there for you?
He was. I grew up with my mom and dad and my sisters, yes.
Wow, interesting. So my guest is Dr. Angelo Brown-Burke, an MP all the way from Jamaica. They don't use honorable titles right there in Jamaica for MPs. So we just simply call Dr. Angelo Brown-Burke the MP. Now you represent the PNP, right?
I do, the People's National Party.
The People's National Party.
Yes.
Are you in government now?
No, we are in opposition.
Opposition, for real.
And I am also the chairman of that party at this time. Yes.
There was a time you became the vice president of the party, right?
Yes, I was.
Oh, wow.
I was vice president for 10 years.
What?
And then I spent a couple of years without being an officer. I lost in one of the elections that we had. I became an MP, and then I ran again as chairman. And so I'm the first female chair that the party has ever had in our 85 years of history.
Was Portia Simpson from your party?
Yes, she was.
Was she the first Jamaican prime minister, female?
She was the first female prime minister, and I have the honor and the pleasure of actually representing the constituency that she led for 40 years.
Did she do good?
She did well. She did well. You know, sometimes many don't see or recognize the good things that you have done, especially when they are in areas like of education and so on. And so she did tremendously well in terms of education there, and she also has changed the infrastructure in terms of housing and roads. But as is usual, many of us as females get some very difficult constituencies. And so even with the changes that she has made, significant inroads and changes, sometimes if you look at that particular constituency and you compare it to others, it might not seem as if so much has been done. But that is because of where she got it when she took over. Yeah.
What do you think she could have done better? What was it like to say she failed in this area and in that area?
Wow. It is difficult for me. I start first of all by what she has really done. So what she has done is to focus on education. And she spent a lot of money in terms of not just making sure that persons from the constituency were able to complete university degrees, but she invested in some of the actual schools that are there. She did a lot of work with Haile Selassie High School, which was a high school that was gifted to us by the Emperor Haile Selassie I when he came to Jamaica, and so it's there in his name. It's the only high school in the constituency, and she has done tremendous work with them. She has also helped a couple of the early childhood institutions, probably where I would have wanted to see more, which is kind of what I would want to be able to do, is to improve the early childhood institutions there, because many of them are not funded by the government. And so what happens when you don't have families who can really pay to give you the kind of foundation that you need, then our kids suffer.
Interesting.
Yes. And
interesting.
So that would probably be one of the things I would like to do.
If there was an opportunity for her to stand for president or prime minister again, you think she would win?
Can I tell you? I think she would. Because she's one of those persons who is loved right across the board. And I also believe, especially since she has stepped out of politics, people recognize, they say that cow doesn't know the use of his tail until he has lost it, right? So now that she's no longer there, you hear people talking about, if she were here, we would have seen this, we would have seen that. And one of the things that comes to mind, especially now that we're having all the problems in terms of the labor unrest and the industrial relations, is that she was one of those persons who did not rest until the issues around a fair deal for labor was had.
Interesting. Yeah. Wow. All right, so now let's zero in on you. There was a time you were the mayor of Kingston, which is labeled as the murder capital of the world.
Yes.
Were you truly the mayor?
I was. I was the mayor from 2012 to 2016.
How difficult was it to be the mayor of such a violent parish?
It was difficult, and particularly so because we struggle in Jamaica in terms of local government to actually have the funding to deal with the responsibilities that we have. So that's one of the things that we kind of fought for. As mayor, I paid a lot of attention to making sure that in terms of the locally generated revenue, that we could increase that, which would then allow us some flexibility and independence in terms of how we could have spent that. One of the things that we did, we started like African Liberation Day celebration. So we had a concert on Africa Day. We did Marcus Garvey birthday as a holiday, and we celebrated that. The police used to say to me, whenever we have these big concerts, the day before we had no incidents of murder or violent shootings, and 2 days after we didn't have one. And I always wondered why we didn't use these kind of public coming together around social activities and cultural activities more to just make sure we can keep our people calm and peaceful and thinking about what is good and best about us, which also helps to refrain from being engaged in some of those kind of more negative activities.
Do you agree that Jamaica is the murder capital of the world, and why?
We are a very violent society, and it is true. The history has shown. I think when you look at the murder per 100,000, we are counted very high. I really believe at the heart of it, that's what I think, at the heart of it is a society where our young people and our majority black still feel alienated and still feel excluded. And I look at it and I say that we still are not very proud of our black skin. Yes, our children grow up thinking that their kinky hair isn't the pretty hair, the good hair. We still grow up thinking that the lighter skinned you are, the prettier you are, and the more likely you are to succeed. And so I believe that a big part of that goes back to some of the teachings of Marcus Garvey, to be proud of who we are, so that we can look in the mirror and say, that's a beautiful young man, that's a handsome young man, that's a beautiful young lady, and to say that I can be successful. And I think that's a big part of it. And I think that when you begin to change the psyche and the mindset of our people, that you will see a difference. Some people say we have between 40% and 60% of our society that is involved in informal activities. That's how they earn a living. That doesn't help for stable income and for sustenance of the family. Yeah, so I think that those are some of the things that we need to change.
It is very baffling to really hear very quality reggae music coming out of Jamaica and talking about blackness and talking about Pan-Africanism, the return to Africa, repatriation, positivity. Yet when you go to Jamaica, there's so much bleaching and there's so much killing. Is it just lip service they are paying to reggae music and consciousness, or what really is it? What's the problem?
I don't think it's lip service. I believe, as you would know, that the music reflects the culture, yes? And so for me, it's a call to the importance of being proud of being black. And so it is a kind of resistance type of music. You know that reggae music over the years has been seen as a music that hits out at Babylon, that doesn't fall in line with the status quo,
right,
that asks for change and for consciousness and for fighting and pushing back. And I believe that the music and those kinds of lyrics are in that same vein. Yes, are in that same vein. Of course, part of the problem is that in terms of just the openness of our society,
right,
the globalization, that the cultural influences from the North, is something that we can't ignore. And that also influences us. Also, we are founded as a society on inequity. When slavery ended, the slave owners were compensated and the slaves were not. And so what you would have is that in terms of value and property, those who would have been descendants from the slave owners would have far more than those of us who were on the plantation, who ended up having to actually sell our labor to be able to eat, as well as to have somewhere to live. And I believe that in large measure, we have not addressed those inequities. And that's at the heart of what you still see. Because, decolonization starts in the mind.
In the mind, right.
Yeah?
Right.
And as Bob Marley has made famous the words, from I think it was Marcus Garvey himself, that
emancipate yourself
from mental slavery. And what is true is that mental slavery is one of the most difficult to break, because you don't see the chains. Sometimes you don't feel the chains. You don't recognize that you are still chained.
Decolonization starts from the mind. I'm going to look at this in just a jiffy. But tell me, these inequalities that you talked about, the inequities and all that, is not just peculiar to Jamaica.
No,
we have St. Vincent, we have Trinidad and Tobago, they all went through the slavery and all that. Why is Jamaica more violent and more murderous than some of these little islands?
A couple of things, you know, there is the story goes that when they came to the Caribbean, they first stopped in Jamaica and they took off the more violent slaves and left them there. They were giving too much trouble, too much rebellion. So they took them off, they left them in Jamaica, and then they went on. So part of it could very well be that we come from the warriors, that were always rebelling, and so on. So that's part of it. That's part of it. I also believe that the cultural influences, I mean, Haiti's right beside us as well. So in terms of what's happening in Haiti, it always affects what's happening with us in terms of the guns for drugs trade and all of that. So I think that is also part of it. I also believe that our political history, I don't think we can ignore in terms of back in the, 60s possibly, when guns were introduced in our political activities. We have fought hard to get it out of it. I do believe that in large measure, it's not enshrined in the political activities, but we have not been able to get rid of it in terms of the society. And also there was a time when, in terms of even our drug trade, whether it is mainly marijuana, mainly ganja, because we didn't do much in cocaine, but certainly for ganja, that it was also involved in that to a lesser extent as well.
Is ganja legalized in Jamaica right now?
It has been decriminalized, and small quantities are legal for personal use. And for personal use, it's legalized, as well as for persons who want to grow it for personal and horticultural uses. So
people can smoke it wherever they are, and people can also have small quantities on them to use.
So first of all, people, yes, can have small quantities to use. Smoking in public places of cigarette or any other substance is not legal. And so if you're smoking, it has to be in private. Yeah.
Can you engage in a commercial production of marijuana in Jamaica for export as an individual?
Yes, you can. There is a regime that's totally legal. Some persons will say, and I will agree with them, that we have been very slow in terms of building out the export regulations to really make it more vibrant. But it is possible. Some of the costs for entry into the industry, we believe, are too high. And so what that has done is that it has kept out many of the small farmers, many of the traditional farmers, many of those who shed blood, sweat, and tears, and for those whose family would have lost their lives because they were involved in the trade. For many of them, it is difficult to enter the market, but it's there.
We have a number of people in Ghana who think that because marijuana is used extensively in Jamaica, it might have been a contributory factor to the violence there. Do you agree with that?
Definitely not. If you look at the individuals who are more likely to be habitual users, they're not violent. That's not where it is. When we look at the violence, I think as much as between 60 and 75%, depending on where you look at it, of our violence are perpetrated by young people, and young people are also the victims of that as well. But you will find that there's no correlation between that. In fact, those who probably use ganja on a regular basis would probably be your Rastafari, and they are quiet, peace-loving people.
Wow.
Yeah. The Rastas who use it for sacramental purposes, for example, you will not find. I've never heard of a Rasta being accused of killing or any of those violent crimes.
Let's look at mental health. How about marijuana and mental health in Jamaica?
Well, for years people have thought that you can have psychotic breaks because of marijuana. the science doesn't show that, though. What the science shows, and I've been talking to a number of, well, the anecdote is that most individuals who would have a mental breakdown because of their use with marijuana, if you go back and trace it, it is because that marijuana was laced with something else. Yes, and it's the kind of hard drug with the marijuana that created that break. So that is one. We have not found the evidence that marijuana leads to that. What COVID has shown, and it's not just in Jamaica, COVID has shown that many of us are far more fragile than we thought. I believe that many of us, and certainly in black communities, we don't readily accept issues around mental health. And so what you would find is that many individuals suffering from mental health, that they would go undiagnosed, that where you see it, you put it down to just being quirky, and that's how that person is, and you leave it alone. So they don't get diagnosed early, they don't get treated early, and therefore it gets out of hand.
NP Brown-Burke, tell me, have you used marijuana personally yourself?
No, I've never used marijuana, although I do use CBD, right, which is because now that we have legalized it, we have products that you have that would be either CBD or THC. And so yes, I do. It's like a supplement that you use for CBD that is sublingual. So I use that.
And what does it do for you?
I take it like how I take my fish oils, right? Because again, the CBD works with the cannabinoid system in the body, and what it does really is help the body to just perform better in terms of antioxidants and fighting free radicals and so on. That's what that is.
Free radicals, interesting. Okay, so Ghana is on the verge of doing the same thing Jamaica took so many years to do. This is a show the president cannot go a day without listening to, and we are live across the world via the internet. And I would like you to speak with our president. Do you think that we need to go the Jamaican way, or we need to take a little longer to decide?
No, I think you have to jump on it. We in Jamaica, some of us are very concerned that we are taking too long. As usual, places like the US and so on, they are going ahead. In fact, the states are doing it, although federally it's still not legal, and therefore that is tying us. What's really holding us back is because we have the interaction with the banking system, and banking marijuana money is a problem. I believe, though, that where you can start and go, because let's forget a little bit about the myths and just let's look at the science. Let's start with medicinal cannabis in terms of pain management, in terms of even for mental health, for anxiety. Yes, for anxiety it is used. We grew up and our grandmothers used to make salve for pain.
Oh, wow.
Yes, from ganja and rub it. Our grandmothers, these Christian church ladies, they used to put it with oil and allow it, to seep into the oil, and use that oil as well for their skin.
Wow.
They used to give it to their kids as tea.
Oh, wow.
Right, as tea. Because of the properties and the values. Yes.
Oh, so it's good as tea.
Precisely.
Oh, good.
And so what I believe that we need to do is that here is a plant that grows readily. Yes, in most of the soil that we have. Here is a plant from which we can make medicine that can heal our people: prostate cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, which are 3 diseases that we know that they afflict black people across the world.
Right.
Across the world. And so what we have is an opportunity to use something that we can control, that we can grow, that's backed by the science to heal our people.
To heal our people?
To heal our people.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, Mr. President, over to you. All right. It's in the final stages of being decriminalized and so on and so forth in this country. Quick it up if you truly want the economy to stand upright and if you truly want to control something that is so beneficial to us as a people. Now, decolonization starts right in the mind. I mean, you have become extremely popular in this part of the world called Africa, not only Ghana, because of a publication that was made about you, talking about decolonization starting with the man. Now, you are an advocate of naming of some of these streets in Jamaica after African heroes. Is that correct?
I am. Some of that has started because we find in the constituency that I represent, for example, there's Majesty Gardens, and that really was from Marcus Garvey and the whole Majesty and all of that. We named a community as well, Starliner. There are other communities. I mean, we have Lagos Street, we have Zimbabwe.
Oh, Lagos Street, Zimbabwe Street.
Yes. So we have those. I believe, though, that it would be important for us to do it in a deliberate way, so that not only do we name the streets, we name them for our African leaders.
Wow.
And we talk about our African leaders, about their contribution to their country, to Africanness across the world. Because it goes back to where I started in terms of what I think is the major issue that we are facing, which is about how do we claim our Africanness, and how do we become proud of that and of who we are and who we are becoming and what we can do. And I believe that this is one way of just doing that. You know, sometimes we can have these subliminal messages, because you pass a street and you see the name, yes, and you say Nkrumah. Who was that? And then you begin to talk about who Nkrumah was and what he did. And I believe that too helps us to be proud of who we are.
For real.
And I believe that it is absolutely important. In our schools, we teach European history. You know, we don't really teach African history.
In Jamaica.
And when we do talk about African history, whether it is in high school or in college, whether it is in Jamaica, the rest of the world, we start with slavery.
Slavery, that's correct.
Yes, as if we had no history before that, as if all we have known is pain and subjugation, and not that we come from royal lineage, you know, that we come from an ancestry that we can be proud of. Yes, and I believe that is part of what is missing, and that is really what I'd really like to see, because I believe that it would be a turning point for us.
Interesting. Well, I mean, not a lot of Jamaicans are going to agree with you on the fact that Jamaicans have to claim their Africanness. I've met a lot of Jamaicans who say, me not no African man, me a Jamaican man.
That's true.
You know, a lot of them will tell you African people actually sold them into slavery, and therefore they don't want to have any link with Africa. Tell me what you think.
Yes, there is that thinking, and it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because I don't believe that there can be any denying of where we have come from and how we got there. The transatlantic trade, slave trade, was a dark part of our history, but it's not one that we can negate. And I believe what we have to do is to understand that a little bit more in terms of what that meant. Yes, and I believe, as Marcus Garvey says, you know, you have to understand your past and know your roots, yeah, to be able to really survive where we are and to move forward. So I do acknowledge that there's some of that. I believe that we need to talk around that, and sometimes too, just the interaction between Africans in Africa and Africans in the diaspora is important for us to understand, yeah, the similarities.
The similarities.
Absolutely.
Jamaica also has some Chinese people in there, right?
Yes, we do.
And you have Indians there as well. But
yes.
Black people are the majority.
They are the majority, probably 80% of the population or more.
80% of Jamaica is black?
Yes.
90% black?
Yes, absolutely.
What is the relationship between the Chinese, Indian, and the Black Jamaican community like?
Well, I'll say this much. For those who have been there for years, Indians and Chinese, we have had very good relations. And I think that to a large extent there has been quite a bit of integration in the society. In some cases, it depends on where you come from. So in some communities, you might have greater integration between the blacks and the Indians, or between the blacks and the Chinese. And so that's not a problem. We have had in more recent times a new wave of Chinese coming in, which are those who are coming in to work for construction and so on. And we haven't had that kind of integration, I believe, for those who have just come. But over the years, we have had our motto is out of many one people, and it is out of many one people for a reason. Yeah, and in fact, part of the challenge I believe we have in Jamaica is that sometimes people don't see race because it is so subtle, because it is more around social class. But if you dig deeper and look at the social class, and you will see those who are darker, with skin of darker hue or lighter hue, and then you see how stratified it is, then you'll understand it. But I believe that there has been quite a bit of integration.
Quite a bit of integration. Okay, all right. So my guest in the studio is Dr. Angelo Brown-Burke. She's an MP. Oh my God, a senator right there from Jamaica, and we are having a very interesting conversation. Now, you seem to be a Pan-Africanist, talking so much about black people, talking about Africa. You want all the names, in fact, of white people put on the streets of Jamaica and some other such places taken out, so that you have the names of African people in there. Tell me, what beat you down and you became so dissatisfied and so disheveled that you decided to naturalize as an American citizen, pushing away your Jamaican-ness and your Africanness?
So what happened to all of us as Jamaicans? We are right there in the north. I don't think that there's a Jamaican family who does not have part of their family in the U.S., in North America, whether it is Canada or the U.S. I mean, it is almost part of who we are. Many individuals looking for better paying jobs or to improve their conditions, that's where they go, that's where we go. And so that's, for many, almost a rite of passage. It happens all the time. I came back home. I mean, I spent 6 years in Cuba, living among Africans, by the way, because back then in Cuba we had quite a number of African students who I was in class with and grew up with.
Right.
So there is that. But then the truth is that I like Jamaica. I like who we are, and I like the easygoing, free-spirited kind of life, slow kind of going. And so, although I lived in the U.S. for a number of years, and I actually wasn't a U.S. citizen, and I had some of my kids there, I came back home, right? I came back home, and I have been working at home, trying to help other families and kids like I used to be, like I was, to make the most of where we are in Jamaica and of what we have there. And I do honestly believe that a big part of that is really being proud of who you are and having the confidence that the sky is the limit.
So you didn't feel like you had sold out Jamaica and sold out Africa by, putting aside all these citizenships and then naturalizing. Remember, you didn't become a dual citizenship. You naturalized as an American.
Well, that's how it is for Jamaica. How you become, it is because it is dual citizen, right? So what it is that you take on U.S. citizenship, but you never give up your Jamaican citizenship. So many Jamaicans will hold two passports. They hold a U.S. passport and they hold a Jamaican passport. Yeah, and that has been so for 4 years. 4 years.
And your reason was that you like the slow life there? It was nicer.
You mean going back to Jamaica? No, I went to the U.S. My mother was living there. She had migrated back in 1980 at the height of the political war in Jamaica, where she felt unsafe because she was a political activist.
Right.
And at that time, when the ruling party won, which is the same ruling party now, a number of individuals who had worked for the People's National Party became targets. I think that leading up to that election was probably the largest number of individuals who were killed because of the politics.
Right.
So many migrated, and my mother was one of them who migrated to save her life.
Did you ever regret naturalizing as an American? Because you gave it up after.
I gave it up after. I served as mayor, being an American citizen. Our Constitution does not prevent that. But the Constitution prevents you from sitting in the Parliament, either the lower or the upper house, as a U.S. citizen. In fact, I mean, there are probably several permanent residents, U.S. permanent residents in our parliaments, in both houses. It's just a fact of what the current dispensation is in terms of how close. Many of us have gone to the U.S. and studied. For example, I did both my master's and my doctoral program in the U.S. For example, before and then came back home after my master's program. And no, I didn't feel as if I had given up my Africanness. I have had my hair in its natural state since 1980. And I've not reverted. That's part of who I am. Where I live, I don't think I discard, my Africanness nor my Jamaicanness at all.
Do you think that we have some of your type in the Jamaican parliament serving in key government positions with hidden American identities?
If I were to hazard a guess, I would think that we probably do. I do not have the evidence of that, but if someone were to say that, I would not tell that. I would not dismiss it out of hand. I would not.
Were you pushed to give out your American citizenship because of politics?
I wasn't pushed to do it. It was a choice I made. I became a member of the council in 1998. And in 2012, after a lot of prodding, I thought that I was encouraging women, and women in particular, I was encouraging women to make themselves available to serve in the House. And I thought that I couldn't encourage others without being in a position to do so myself. And I could not have done so without giving up my U.S. citizenship. And so I decided to.
Can you go back for that citizenship again?
No. It's not.
It's gone for good?
It's gone for good.
Do you regret it?
No, I don't.
All right. So my guest in the studio is Dr. Angelo Brown-Burke. She has 2 masters and, of course, a PhD. All the way from Jamaica. She sojourned in America, and she's a key political figure in the politics of Jamaica. She was once a mayor, in fact, in no other parish but the murder capital of the world. I'm talking about Kingston, Jamaica. Now we're going to be talking some reggae, but in the interim, recently, do you know Stonebwoy?
Oh, yes, I've heard of Stonebwoy, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard.
All right. So Stonebwoy, recently said that reggae music is actually from Jamaica. And what he intended to say was that all Jamaicans are Africans. And therefore, if reggae is from Jamaica, it must be coming from Africa. And he had a very big backlash. I'm going to play you one of these from an angry Jamaican, and then you will tell me what you think about this.
Okay.
This is 3FM.
Well, big up the people them worldwide, you understand what I say? Yeah, big up the people them worldwide. You know, me not really need no introduction, but this is the Avatar Jankra, sound system selector / entertainer out of Jamaica. But, I have a problem too, Yeah, I'm going to tell you what my problem. You see, little boy I'm going to call him little boy, because him not have no respect. A little boy from Guyana or Guyanese or Guyana, which part not even Guyana. One place down in Africa. One Afrobeat artist named Stonebwoy. Yo, Stone Boy, let me tell you this in a bad boss. Careful how you approach your music here. So no disrespect when you taking a reggae, you know. You understand? Not true because of some little idiot artists who are sing suck and kill and fuck. Make Uno reach a Grammy and make Uno reach a what you call the Billboard and then take off reggae fight. But please, Dan, don't tell nobody about our music. Reggae music belong to Africa. Don't do it, brother. We are mixed race down at this. Yeah? We create reggae music at Jamaica. We create dancehall. Give thanks to the go on phone now, brother. Don't make we start fighting, you know. In a real life, I'm not comfortable with what you say. You hear that? You come make claims about reggae belongs to Uno, brother. Behave on yourself. Because we stop play Afrobeat down at this bumbuck lot here, yeah? And mark me word. Stone Boy, fix up your argument, man. Reggae belong to us. Not through them a little youth, you come set trap. And I sing something where make you feel like, brother, don't do it here. Remember we create the Bob Marley, the Peter Touch, the Bonnie Wheeler, the Toots and the Maytels. Remember for the biggest star out of Africa, lucky to be a Peter Touch him imitate. Don't try that something that we do, brother. I'm not comfortable about it. In a real life, you see me? No disrespect to no Afrobeat, you know. But now if you give respect to dancehall and reggae music, man, tell your Stone Boy, fix up your argument, brother. I'm not comfortable here. Next time I'm going to tell about your mama.
This is 3FM.
Are you feeling alright? Fire! Music I love to play. Music I love to do. Reggae music I play come from Africa. A black man music I play. Reggae. 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 Oh, music I play, yeah. Music I love to rock, yeah. Reggae music I play come from Africa. A black man culture I sing. Reggae. Reggae.
All right, so this is a big one coming from out of the camp of Pa Willie and the Scroll. It's a Ghanaian group, and it seems to be supporting what Stone Boy is saying. What do you think about what DJ Avatar said concerning Stone Boy?
In a sense, I understand where he's going, and I think part of it is when you look at the history of Jamaican music and the fact that so many music forms came out of Jamaica,
Right.
and that some of them have we have never been given credit for it. You know, the whole DJ in the US, for example, came out of Jamaica, but it has taken years for that to even be accepted in some circles. And so I think part of the thinking there is simply that since reggae came out of Jamaica, we want to make sure we own it.
Yeah.
And that nobody else says they own it. But it is true that most of who we are, Africa is a big influence on who we are. And so from that perspective, I understand what Stone Boy was saying about it being Africa music too. But I believe that we are proud, fierce people as well. And we want to make sure that that which is ours is recognized as ours.
This is 3FM.
Dr. Angelo Brown-Burke is my girls, and we're talking. Now, tell me about the Chinese invasion of Jamaica. I hear Chinese people have taken over Jamaica. They have all the big lands. I've heard so much music from dancehall. Vibes Cartel saying now he cannot buy a house at Cherry Gardens. Is all taken over by Jamaica, Chinese and all that. How true is this?
That's not my reality. I do know, though, that over the last couple of years or so, Jamaicans have been upset about the number of Chinese who have come in. So they have come in to do major construction projects. And when they come, part of what they come with is that they come with a lot of workers. And so originally there was a pushback in terms of those Chinese who were coming as laborers. You know, the Chinese would say to you that no, they when they bring persons, they are multi-talented. So you'll have someone who's probably working, you know, not just as a laborer, but they have greater skills and they will multitask. Jamaicans, if you have a little talent, you know, you're not going to work as a laborer, and so they brought them in. That, I think, became a problem. It became a problem because it has pushed some of our local construction companies out of business because you just can't compete. Also because some of the companies have gotten some concessions that local construction companies have not had. That is indeed a problem, and so we need to look into that, and we have certainly the party that I represent, and as the person for labor, I have made a commitment to look into that and to look at the work permits that come in. And so in some sense there's that pushback against the Chinese. If you go to some of the areas that are being called out, I think that Jamaicans are there, you know, Jamaicans are earning. The truth at the same time also is that the inequity in the society, I think, is probably starker now than it has been in a long time. And therefore the fact that some of our workers may not be able to afford to live in some of these areas would be a concern.
Interesting.
Yes. And also remember that you find reflected in your music some of those things that they are dissatisfied with. And some of it might be exaggerated, but it is an issue that cannot be ignored.
Well, I mean, we've had a number of other people talk about it and talking about how the land of Jamaica is almost getting out of the hands of Jamaicans. Actually, it's getting into the hands of some other people. But well, I mean, you have said something about this. Are you married to a man called Paul Burke?
Yes, I am.
Are you still married to him?
Yes, I am. We've been married for 38 years.
Is there, congratulations. Is there a controversy around him concerning bringing in some ganja seeds from Canada and all that using his company?
No, there isn't. There was in Parliament not so long ago controversy about a company that was allowed to import ganja seeds. And many of us inside Parliament and outside of Parliament and those individuals in the industry thought that really was something that should not have happened. We have heard that individuals connected to MPs on the government side is where it came from. But I can say categorically that Paul Burke is not involved in that at all.
Well, I'm hearing that he has a hand in the Canadian company or that company that was trying to bring in the seeds into Jamaica. But is it true?
No, it's not.
He has no hand in it?
No, he doesn't.
It's just an allegation?
It's just an allegation.
It's a lie?
It is a lie.
Okay. All right. But what are the implications importing marijuana seeds from Canada? That is now the major exporter of marijuana around the world.
I think people will be upset about it because Jamaica has a long history in cultivating ganja. And what that means is that there are a few places that could probably have seeds that are better than ours. Canada is somewhere where they have such a glut on their market that they are looking for places to push their products. And we as a country that's emerging, although we have such a strong tradition and culture, we are only now getting into that market. And I believe that the government has to act to protect our emerging industry.
Emerging industry.
Yes.
That is the catchphrase.
Yes.
Emerging industry. Protect that. You may have better seeds coming from some other places, but protect the emerging industry. That's what it is. Now, there's a Jamaican here who wants me to ask you, what do you want streets in Jamaica named after African heroes when they should be named after Jamaican heroes.
But the one is not contradictory with the other. I'm expecting that we will do both. I am expecting that what we will do is name them after African heroes, name them after national heroes and local heroes. And we actually have a tradition of doing that. Many communities, when I was mayor, I remember what I did, I insisted that if you wanted to change the name of a street or your community, that one person couldn't just turn around and do that you had to get permission from the rest of the community to make the change. And so I'm not advocating for anything different.
All right. So that is what it is. Now, we have a lot of Jamaicans in Ghana. In fact, a lot of Jamaicans in Ghana. Some people say Jamaica is a smaller Ghana. Now, the Rastafari community is preaching repatriation, coming home to Africa and all that. Are you encouraging that in Jamaica? Is that not going to let a lot of people leave Jamaica?
I don't think so, because I believe that we do have a number of Jamaicans who would want to repatriate and to come back home, and especially in this decade for people of African descent. So that's one, and those who want to come back will come back home. But there are also Jamaicans and persons in the Caribbean who are proud of their Caribbeanness as well, and probably would not want to come back home to Africa, and that's okay as well. That is okay as well.
Since Jamaica is so proud of dancehall and also reggae, are you worried about the recent fate of dancehall going down? Reggae music itself is not as attractive as it used to be on the world market, as DJ Avatar mentioned. Are you worried about that? What's the cause?
I'm not sure of all of the causes around that. When you listen to persons in the industry, they'll tell you that they believe that we have not done as much in terms of the development of the music as we saw happening in earlier years in terms of the craft. And that kind of a thing. I believe we have to look at what is happening there. I think also maybe some of the message. There have been some artists where the message has been seen as being kind of negative, lewd, yeah. And I believe that every genre has to look at the population it is serving and representing, and do what you need to do to reflect that culture and to draw individuals there. Quite frankly, if we look at a lot of the genre, we'll realize if you go to a party, sometimes the music that has the greatest following or applause are those songs that are the oldies, and that is something to look at.
That's true.
Why are we still so in love with oldies, and some of the newer music don't go beyond a year? After 2 years, nobody wants to hear them again. That is something for us to look into, I believe.
It's something for us to all look into. All right, we'll certainly look into that. Is this the first time you are in Ghana?
No, I actually was in Ghana in 2012. I came as mayor of Kingston.
Wow.
Yes, that time I think it was Mayor Van der Puy who was mayor of Accra. And he hosted.
Oh yes.
He hosted a conference of mayors and leaders of Africa and of Africa.
I think I remember that. Yes, I remember that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So tell me about LGBTQI plus in Jamaica.
Oh my gosh. I think Jamaica is like any other country in 2023, where we do have those individuals who are pushing for a more inclusive society and a more liberal society. We do have others in Jamaica, including our church, that's really pushing back against that. And I believe that it is really about inclusion on one hand, but also allowing us to be who we want to be without the foreign influences. And I think that's really what it is.
What do your laws say about that?
So LGBTQ plus is not what is illegal. Sodomy is still on our books as being illegal. It is not a law that has been applied, I think, for decades. But it's still there on our books for that. Outside of that, we don't allow marriage. I think marriage is seen as between persons of opposite sex, as far as our laws are concerned. But I think that's it. So there is no protection in our laws for persons who are LGBTQ plus. There's no protection of that, which I think is what some persons are pushing for, and I think persons would want to make sure that for sodomy in particular, that is removed from the law books. But I don't see that as being a priority on our legislative agenda at this time.
What do you think about sodomy? Is it something that you would endorse?
I'm not sure what you mean by endorsing. I believe that sex between two people is a personal matter, and I'm only interested in what I'm doing. I don't see why I have to get into your bedroom and into your sexual life. It isn't any of my concern. That's what I really believe. What I believe we need to do is to have an inclusive society.
Okay.
And what that means is that if I am someone with a disability, I should feel proud as a Jamaican anywhere. I should not be discriminated against for a job or for an opportunity. And I think the same goes for anybody. I believe that persons who want to carry on their campaign and advocacy for LGBTQ, that's okay. And those individuals who come from a different background, especially those of us who are Judeo-Christian, who don't believe in that, should also be free to also say that that's not what we believe in.
Are you a Judeo-Christian?
Yes, I am.
Oh, you are?
Yes,
okay. Well, our chief psychiatrist here in Ghana, Dr. Kwesi, says that homosexuality is actually mental illness, and he's our chief psychiatrist here. Do you agree?
I have not seen the science to back that up, but I'll tell people where I come from. I am a black woman, and I know that it wasn't so long ago that a black individual was thought to be inferior, not able to do certain things that a regular human being could. I'm also a woman, and I am therefore a woman who not so long ago would not have been allowed to hold the position that I do today, would not have been allowed to vote. And therefore, I do not subscribe to discrimination in those forms that prevent people from doing what they can do and what they should do. And I come from that background. My sons don't like it when I say it either, but the truth is that I'm the mother of 4 boys. And I cannot think for the life of me why any individual would choose to be homosexual in these days. That's not something you choose to be. I don't think it's what you choose to be.
Fire!
All right, so that is what it is. That is what it is. I do not. Okay, so that is what it is. Dr. Angelo Brown-Burke is in the house. I'm going to ask you a stupid question and then we'll end it there. And the stupid question is this. Now, everywhere I go around the world, even in Ghana, I see a lot of Jamaican men breed women all over the place, just have children. A lot of them very irresponsible, not taking care of them. I hate to say this because, in fact, I love Jamaica and I love my Jamaican friends. But when I speak to my female friends, and if they have anything to say about their lives, or a Jamaican man came here and then, me and him breed, and after 2 youths, he's gone. He's breeding another woman somewhere. He's breeding somebody. One Jamaican man has about 800 children, breeding almost all women. What is it with Jamaican breeding?
Wow, that's a very loaded question. I come from a family where my mother and father were married, and they were married until she died. So I grew up in that home. I have 4 children. I've been married for 38 years. So obviously I believe that the stability of a family is important. And I believe that children are best when they have access to both parents. Yeah. Now the Jamaican society for years, some will put it at the feet of our slave plantation history, that the family has not been a stable unit as we would have wanted it to be. There is some truth in that, because many of our men were used as studs and our women were used as breeders. And so we grew up from then with an understanding that the family don't have that kind of attachment to the family, because you have the child and then you have to you go, or the child is sold. I do believe though that it is time for us to recognize that that isn't helping, and that in fact we have to deliberately take steps to reverse that kind of a tradition that we have known. Even in Jamaica, where we have persons who are not wed, but we have a stable relationships that have lasted for years and for generations without signing that paper. And I really believe that in 2023, there is no man, no Jamaican man, who should feel proud of having children that he has abandoned. Yeah, so I don't believe in it at all.
But you know it's happening.
I know it is happening. It is happening so much so that even in Jamaica, there has been a call for it to be mandatory for children to be tested, DNA at birth, so that the father's name is on the birth certificate, and that the father can take responsibility from birth. So I know it is a problem.
This is deep, and I really, really appreciate this. I really, really appreciate it. Finally, what is the illiteracy, ignorance rate in Jamaica?
Wow. So literacy, we calculate at a grade 4 level, right? So once you are at grade 4, we say you're literate. And I think the last thing I saw is that coming out of our high schools, we could have as much as 40%
literacy.
Yeah.
And 60% illiteracy.
Yeah.
You are not sure. Your eyes tell me you're not too sure.
No, I don't remember the figures.
Okay.
I don't remember the figures, but I do know we do have a problem. We do have a problem because our students finishing high school, we only have 30% who are able to get into university by virtue of their qualification. So what that means is that there's 70% who are not able to do that. And of that 70%, I'm sure that there would be probably about 30-40% who would not be able to read and to function at that level.
Interesting. That's fair. Thank you so much. I do appreciate you, Dr. Angelo Brown-Burke. Yeah, you don't look your age though. I'm sure Paul Beck has been telling you this time and again. Do you have a favorite dancehall artist? I want to play his music for you. Dancehall.
A favorite dance hall music. I don't know. I like my old time music.
Okay.
Yeah, so I like my old time music. Of the kind of more recent. I'm a Queen Africa fan.
Queen Africa.
Etana fan.
Etana.
Yeah, those are.
Is it because they are females?
No, it's not because they're female, but I like them. Yeah, I like them.
Have you heard about Stanley and the Turbines before?
Oh yes, Stanley and the Turbines. They go way back.
Do you know any of their songs that you like?
Oh my gosh, I'm not going to remember them.
I'm going to play you one.
Play
this
me
one is called Leave Me Kaisilo.
Oh yes, I know that one. Yeah, that's a very, very popular one and very famous one.
Sing a little bit of it for me.
Oh no, I never sing. That's one gift I wish I had, but I am honest enough to understand and to recognize that I cannot sing. So,
I thought they said all Jamaicans can sing.
Oh no, I only sing in a huge crowd or in the bathroom.
Thank you so much, MP Angelo Brown-Burke, for talking to us. We do appreciate you.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Blessings.
He was a crazy Yes, and him get one with many a girls. Him say, girl, I love you today.